Hey guys, welcome to another video on the Chesnoid Gaming channel. It's been a while since we've had one, and they are returning daily from today. The new series will start tomorrow with FC Köln. We'll be starting at Cologne, starting tomorrow at midday. This one you'll be seeing at midday on Saturday. I apologise it's taken so long. I've obviously been waiting for my PC to arrive and then to get it set up. And as you can tell, we're going to be playing on PC with FIFA's Realism mod. Now this video is going to be just about this mod and what it does for the series as kind of a precursor to the full series, which is going to start tomorrow. So if you're not interested in knowing the ins and outs of this mod, then disregard this video and come back tomorrow at midday, where you'll be able to see the FC Cologne career mode starting in Germany at midday. I would have already started earlier on this week, actually, a career mode on stream using this mod as well. So if you want to see that, then there's a link in the description to my Mixer channel where you can see all of the streams live. So this video is going to be me diving in, showing you what this realism mod does to the game. Now, I've brought up FIFA's Patreon here, which is a great way to show you all of the extra features that he's added into the game. So if you would like to, if you have FIFA on PC or you were thinking of getting FIFA on PC for this mod, FIFA's Realism mod is available. I'll leave a link to his Patreon in the description. It is available for free to the public, but when updates come out, it needs readdressing and you get 7 days early access to the mod via his Patreon. So the other day, EA released an update for FIFA, and obviously that not broke, but made some features of the mod not work. So obviously you had to recode it, and then obviously it comes out to Patreons 7 days before it comes out to people in the general public. It's like $2 a month. It's really not much, considering how much work and tens, if not hundreds of hours that go into this. I think it's very much worthwhile, so I thought I'd give him a little bit of free promo here. I've made a donation to him via his website for helping me get set up. He walked me through step by step how to install the mod, etc. So we're going to go through, and this is basically career mode on steroids. It's everything that was broken, fixed, and extra features and mechanics that we haven't had in FIFA career mode either for years or ever. So we will go through it step by step. There's a lot here. This video might be quite lengthy, and again, it's mainly going to be me showing you the words on the screen and going through in detail. So if you're not interested in that, then feel free to click off. Tomorrow is the main one. FC Köln career mode starts tomorrow at midday. Make sure you got notifications turned on. Make sure you follow me on Twitter so you do not miss it. So what has FIFA added to the list for FIFA 20 career mode? As you can see, obviously, that we were having some issues with people getting sacked in unrealistic scenarios. The board is now less ruthless and won't sack you as easily in FIFA 20, but there's still more sackings than we experienced in previous years. This year we experienced exponentially larger figures of people getting sacked unnecessarily. The League and European Cup, the Champions League and the Europa League are now more important to the club that you're managing than the domestic cups, which makes sense in real life. Obviously, if you're not in those competitions, then that part's irrelevant, and the cup will take less priority to your league campaign as you try and get yourself up through the rankings. But there's a bigger gap between financial strictness depending on your settings. So 65%, 75%, or 95% of player sales go back into your budget. Now, all of your remaining budget goes to the next season. So there have been scenarios where you've left loads of money hoping to get the majority of it, or most of it, or even half of it factored into your next season's budget. You'll get all of that money that you don't spend in your next season on top of the extra budget that the board was going to give you anyway. So it's a great way, especially if you're a smaller club like we're going to be at FC Köln tomorrow, and if you do an RTG, like we might do a lower league RTG in England later on in the year, obviously something on stream perhaps as well. Being able to take all of that money from year to year to year is going to be really helpful for a long-term series like that. There is significantly failing in the league and or European competition will now probably get you sacked, but winning a domestic cup could save you. So you are more likely to get sacked if you say they want top 4 and you finish 15th, you're probably going to get sacked. But you will have to significantly fail rather than just, say, finish 7th and then get sacked, like some people have been experiencing. But winning a cup could certainly keep you in your job. Having a few players with bad morale will now no longer get you sacked. We saw people that were having issues with players just morale just plummeting and the board just sacking you. Even you could be top of the league and have won cups, because the player morale was low, you'd get sacked. That now isn't an issue anymore. And little things like offering a release clause too high, the board would sack you previously, they now don't. You can, however, now also get sacked earlier in the season than previous, but you'll have to be doing really, really badly for that to happen. With regards to realistic settings, injury returns are now more realistic. So when people come back from injury, they won't just immediately be able to play. They'll have to play 1 or 2 games to fully recover. So perhaps bring them on, play them for half an hour as they're on their way back from injury, bring them off the bench, etc., which is nice, rather than just being like, oh, he's broke his leg, oh, he's back, throw him straight in the starting lineup, etc. Little things like currency conversions have been adjusted. Award winners for competitions like Player of the Month are now a lot more realistic. And there's the real stadium in the game for the Champions League final in 2023 and the real stadium for the Europa League final in 2021. With regards to gameplay, it's now a lot more consistent and in turn remove some of the scripting. I haven't experienced that yet because I haven't played on the PC mod. I'm going to go and record episode 1 of FC Köln after this. I can give you a more detailed response on that once I've made a few episodes, or people like Gianni, MGH, and Aniran, etc., can give you a more in-depth feedback on the way the gameplay plays. Derby, arrival, away, and important games are now more aggressive and harder to play. So he's adjusted the way that the AI will play against you in derby games, in rival games, and in away games, and as well, obviously, important games like a cup final, a cup semi-final, etc. So we're going to find that the gameplay is more difficult. I'm at present going to start the FC Köln career mode with my ultimate sliders that we used on console. We'll wait and see how that goes. I might need to go back to default ultimate if it becomes too hard, or if I'm finding it impossible, which is a genuine possibility. I've never played with this mod. It might be too difficult for me. I'm not the best of FIFA players, as you know. Realistic form. So form will differ between players more, and match ratings reflect form more accurately, which is a nice addition. With regards to finances, they're more realistic, meaning that everything kind of costs as it would in real life, rather than it just being a random default figure. So travel costs more, stadium maintenance now costs more, redesigned finance modifiers based on leagues for merchandise and ticket sales. So you'll get more money per ticket sold in the Premier League and La Liga than you will in the Bundesliga and Liga, which is what you'd get in real life. You pay more for a Premier League ticket than you would for a ticket in the French top league. So you also get now more ticket and merchandise sales as well, and scouting costs more also. With regards to scouting network, it takes a shorter amount of time to scout a player. Scouting in your own league is now a lot easier as well. Reveal level for info is now higher. I'm not entirely too sure what that means. And player data takes longer to expire. So previously you'd scout someone and their stats, you'd have to rescout them after either a season, or I think they upped it to maybe, well no, it was 6 months, and I think they upped it to a season. It now is longer than that. With regards to job offers, you now get more job offers if you're doing well, and less job offers if you're not doing very well. And only successful / well-known managers will get offers from big teams. So you'll have to, if say you're a mid-table club, you'll have to perform really well to be offered a job at a top 4 club, rather than just having them all available for you to just select whenever you like anyway. And you'll also now receive job offers from different leagues, rather than just being like, oh, here's 6 Premier League jobs, or here's 6 La Liga jobs. It will give you offers from a wider variety of different leagues on a wider scale. Top of the table clubs, bottom of the table clubs, etc, etc. With regards to the AI selection, EA have addressed this themselves as well, but the Realism mod also addressed it earlier than EA were able to. The AI now put out their best 11 in most matches, especially big games. Big games against smaller teams and low important ties like the FA Cup first round, or games that are 2 to 4 days before a big game, they will rotate and put out a slightly weaker 11. I'm not going to change the starting 11 of the AI at all in the PC career modes moving forward. I'm going to trust the Realism mod, and hopefully we won't have any issues with the AI selecting the wrong sort of 11 for any given game. Players in form get picked more often, even if their overall isn't that high, but they won't always start, but they will sometimes make the bench. So someone might be 75 rated at a top 4 club and be playing really well. They won't just go straight in the starting lineup immediately, but they will be on the bench and more likely to be involved in some regard rather than just being disregarded or having them unnecessarily or unrealistically start ahead of an 89 rated player, for example. Like, yes, someone like a 75 rated player might be playing really well. Yes, a 75 rated player might be playing really well. Okay. Moving on to morale, there is a fully redesigned morale system. He spent a lot of time completely changing the way that morale works. Only players in and around the starting 11 will get unhappy if they aren't playing most games and will try and force a move away. Meaning that those players that are in your reserves that weren't going to play anyway, their morale now won't unrealistically drop because they're expecting to start every week. They'll recognise their role within the squad and learn to accept playing less amounts of football. Bench players will be happy with a few starts and minutes off the bench. Reserve players will be happy with just one or two starts a season and maybe a few minutes off the bench on top of that. How a player's morale is calculated is more realistic based on personality. If they're a team player, team performance will be much more important than game time, player performance and contract happiness, and the opposite for a selfish player. And the team now gains a lot more happiness for important wins. With regards to AI contract renewal, the AI now renews almost all of their player contracts rather than AI contracts just running out and them not replacing them, and you can sign basically anyone as long as you've got it in the right season on a pre-contract. The AI will now sign their players to new deals. It's very, very rare that you'll be able to sign someone, or big name players at least, on a free signing. It will still be possible, but it's more unlikely, which is the way it is in real life. So there's been tweaks to the growth/decline of players as well. He's adjusted the dynamic potential slightly. Dynamic potential still mainly affects the majority of it, but players will now grow a little bit more in tune with their form rather than just play time. So you could have someone that played every game but was terrible, they'd still grow quite well because of dynamic potential, recognising that they're playing a lot. It takes form into account more as a higher priority factor in their growth. Old players won't decline as quickly, and the stats they lose are more widespread. So, like it gives an example here. This is great to try and explain it to you guys as well. So, for example, Messi won't lose 10 to 20 sprint speed in one season. It'll be more widespread. So he'll lose 2 or 3 maybe over the course of a season, and 10 to 20 maybe over the course of like 4 or 5 seasons. Young players will grow more realistic based on their position. So goalkeepers grow slower or slower than a central midfielder, for example. In that scenario, a more realistic AI decline, again, kind of the opposite of that. Goalkeepers and centre-backs will decline slower, as obviously we tend to see in real life. Defenders and goalkeepers tend to peak in their late 20s, early 30s, whereas a lot of wingers and strikers and young players tend to be at their most explosive and best in their kind of mid-20s, and obviously you get those that stand out in their late 20s and early 30s as well. With regards to player retirement, players can now play a lot longer than 35, and player retirement is based on position. Again, similar to the growth and decline, goalkeepers and centre-backs tend to play a little bit longer in their careers than wingers, centre-mids and strikers, etc. With regards to player values, big players now worth, as you would expect in the current modern financial climate, for morale and contract length and potential way more into morale. So if a player is in bad form with bad morale and a less than 1 year contract left, his value will be a lot lower than normal. High potential players now have a much bigger value and are harder to buy. Basically, if a player's playing well, then his value will go up. If a player's not playing very well, then he'll be easier to buy. And that is involved in the negotiations as well. It's not just, is his value going up or is his value going down? It's how readily will the AI team sell that player to you? So are they going to be quite open to negotiation, or are they going to be very, very strict and very play hardball, basically? That's going to depend on how the player's playing and what his potential is like, etc. Which, again, is more realistic to what we see in real life and better than what is currently in the game. Values of players who are happy will go up a bit, and sad players will go slightly down. and long contracts will rise and the value of players with shorter contracts will decrease because there's less value in that contract for the club. Realistic player wages, on the whole, they're lower, but players with high potential will have a higher wage, or they'll ask for more because they know that they intrinsically know that they're going to be good. Obviously, in real life, you don't know that you're going to be good, but the game can kind of plan that out with the dynamic potential system. Players will ask for more in higher leagues, and in the lower leagues, they won't be quite as greedy financially. And then the league modifiers have been adjusted as well, similar to the money you make from merchandise and tickets, etc. Earlier on, as we mentioned, players in La Liga and the Premier League are going to get paid more than players in Serie A and the Bundesliga, etc. With regards to scouting, 90 plus potential players are now rare, even with 5-star scouts. You'll only find a few each season. To be fair, a few each season is still quite a few, so don't worry, you're not going to not find any 5-star scouts, or we're not going to find any. We're not going to not find any 90 plus potential scout players in our youth system in the saves that we do here on the channel. Scouts are more expensive though, so if you want to invest in youth, you actually have to invest in youth. Scoutingship is now more expensive as well. Sacking a scout is more expensive. There's kind of more of a risk reward, I guess, is the way I try and phrase it. Like, if you want to invest, like currently, you can invest in a little bit in youth and a little bit in new players, and you can kind of do everything. Whereas if you want to solely invest in youth, you're going to have to commit to it because you're going to have to throw all of your funds into it. So there is more of a risk reward there with regards to the youth, rather than being able to just dabble in everything and it doesn't really matter if your youth scouts don't come through with anyone. The risk is you could spend all the money on your youth scouts and not get anyone that's amazing back. It will make you think twice. Plus, it will give you the option to fully commit to a youth ethos rather than dabble here and there. You can kind of go full youth or keep all your money and go full new players via transfers, etc. There are adjustments made to the way that the youth academy players look and their skill moves and weak foot, etc. So they'll be more realistic with the positions that they are, whereas like wing backs in the console versions will be more suited to centre back, and strikers having 1-star weak foot, 1-star skill moves, etc. That's adjusted, and the potential range for youth academy players is much broader now as well. With regards to simulating, as in when you play and the other AI games are being simmed, teams will now win the league with 90 plus points, but rarely get more than 100. We've seen EA go too far the other way with the console version, where now you'll have 4 teams finish on 100 plus points. That's not going to happen now in the realism mod. This one thing has fixed the previous issue with the consoles, and it's also fixed the new issue with the consoles. It's found the middle ground. FIFA's found the middle ground. Teams will now get relegated with about 20 points, which is more than like the 4 than we've seen some teams get in the console version since the latest big patch. But really bad teams will get relegated with fewer. But it's very rare in the top divisions that you have a side that's going to be really bad. Table positions are now more realistic. The top 6 in the Premier League is normally the top 6 that we see in real life. More goals are scored in general. Goal scorers are more realistic. A defender won't win the golden boot, and neither will a 78 rated player. It's, as you expect, players like Kane, Sterling, Aguero, Salah, etc. More goal scorers are more realistic. Assisters are more realistic. So again, kind of the creative midfielders will be getting more of the assists. More injuries happen in simulated games. So you will have to take, and I will have to take that into account, because of course we play 1 month per episode, and I'm going to be simming games quite a bit. So we're going to have to be wary of the injuries. The players who get injuries are more realistic as well, and energy is now a big factor. So if you play a player that's low on energy, there's a bigger chance that they'll get injured than before. So obviously if they only have 80% stamina, they're more likely to get injured than someone that has 100% stamina. So you are still going to have to rotate even when simming, regardless of the way you may have done it on console. Higher match ratings in sim games to reflect played games, so that will keep a more level playing field, or keep things about as they should be with regards to form spiking and dipping. More cards happen in games, yellow and redesigned. I'm not sure what he means by more cards yellow and redesigned, but more yellow cards basically is what I'm taking from that. More realistic card obtainers. Defenders and midfielders pick up the most cards, and aggression and how bad you are at tackling are all factors as well, rather than just randomly assigning a yellow card to someone for no real reason. With regards transfers, loans, and negotiations. Teams now don't stock up on one position. We've seen in previous years, teams just buy 3 left backs, or Man United a couple of seasons ago would buy like 4 strikers without selling anyone else on. They won't do that anymore. English players rarely leave England, which is less realistic now than it was previously, because we've seen players like Jadon Sancho, Reece Nelson, etc. go abroad, but it's still the main trend. Maybe in future years, for FIFA 21 perhaps, he could tweak that slightly if we do see a continual trend of English players leaving England. Good teams don't buy bad players with low potential, so teams will basically sign players that you would expect, of the calibre that you would expect them to sign. You won't see low-rated teams signing incredible players, you won't see incredible teams signing average players. More transfers occur in the summer window. Big players move to big teams, not random countries like Austria, etc. So we saw Neymar move to Torino in a career mode we did on FIFA 19 last year. Players won't move to rival clubs. It does occasionally happen in real life, but I'd rather it just was cut out completely than have players constantly move to rival clubs in the save. Fewer players move to teams where they won't start, so players will be able to understand how much playing time they're going to get at a new club before signing for them. Teams pay more for players, especially on deadline day. The team's best players won't go out on loan, which is something we've seen happen in console career mode. It is risky to do transfers on deadline day, as if you delegate, they may take longer than 3 hours to do. I tend to do all my transfers myself, so it's not going to affect me. But if you're thinking of getting the mod, then it's something, and you tend to delegate, then it's something you need to take into account. Teams and players will now accept fewer lower offers compared to their ideal target figure. So they play hardball. It's a lot more difficult to negotiate. So I'm definitely going to have to adjust the way that I go through with transfers. You guys know how cheap I am when it comes to transfers. I always try and save as much money as I physically can. Not going to be able to do that with the realism mod. Every time a player signs or loans for a team, they always lose or gain at least one potential, which adds a type of dynamic potential to all teams, rather than obviously it only affecting your team. Now, if a player moves from an AI team to an AI team, their dynamic potential will be affected as well. Only slightly, but it's more than it previously was, which is a nice addition too. Teams will now sign fewer older players as well. If you're buying a young player, the AI will likely include a future percentage of sale fee clause. If you're buying a player from a team who doesn't have a lot of money, they're more likely to include a percentage clause as well, so they can kind of make money longer term from their better player sales. More realistic league ratings, so Liga NOS, the Portuguese league, and Eredivisie are now not considered low-tier leagues. Obviously, playing for someone like Ajax is not the same as playing for someone in the lower leagues. Eredivisie and the Portuguese league and a couple of others were not considered as prestigious as perhaps they should be in real life. Obviously, in real life, they're not incredible leagues, but they needed a step up in terms of the way that FIFA looked at them, certainly. Teams can now transfer list more players, and they take longer to respond to transfer offers, and so can the user. So obviously, you'd offer, and then 5 days later, if you didn't respond, the AI would be like, right, that's it, we're out. Now they'll give you longer to respond to an offer whilst you're considering what you want to do, or perhaps you're waiting to sign someone before selling someone else, and it gives you a longer window to be able to do that. Negotiating with a seller, buyer, player is now a lot harder, and the AI will decline / counter more often. So transfers and contract negotiations are going to be more difficult. With regards to training, you can now train all stats, including composure, sprint speed, balance, everything that we've wanted to train, you can now with this PC mod. Realistic stats versus drill, composure for penalties, etc. So the drill will now be more in line with the stats, or the stats that improve will be more in line with the drill that you're doing. And training is less overpowered. So training will be half as effective. So you can't just, there's probably linked to the sprint speed training, etc. You can't just make any player 99 sprint speed, 99 acceleration over the course of a season. It's going to take longer to build up their stats, which again improves the longevity of a save, because players aren't going to grow as quickly, and you're going to have to play more to get them to become as good as you want them to be. With regards to release clauses, fewer players will have release clauses. However, as is in real life, all La Liga and Liga NOS players will have a release clause. That's something that's done in Football Manager, but it's not done in FIFA. It will be. I think in FIFA it's done initially, but throughout the course of the save that changes, whereas now throughout the course of the save, all La Liga and Liga NOS players, which is again Portuguese league, will have release clauses. With regards creating and editing managers, there's now a lot more breadth to what you can do. There's loads of new outfits and clothes, and you can change the the height, weight, etc. a lot more than you could. With regards press conferences, it's fixed most typos and grammar errors. There haven't been. I'm not sure yet if there's any changes to, like, if you're in the top 4 and they're talking about a relegation fight, or if you get relegated and they're talking to you about the cup final. I'm not sure if that's fixed. It may well be. We'll find out throughout the course of doing the save. With regards graphics, Juve now have the licensed name, kit, logo, etc. It's fully licensed Serie B kits. All other unlicensed teams are now licensed with real kits, names, logos, banners. About 25 teams are now fully licensed that weren't before. There's real banners for around 120 teams. New mini faces, so the little ones you see in the menu for 120, for hundreds of players, sorry. Real badges for all the English leagues. Ad boards for in-game as well for 25 clubs and competitions. Real flags, real logos for 23 competitions. Real tournament textures for 8 competitions as well. Loads of new faces as well. You can see all of the names there. I'll let you guys pause if you want to have a look at some of those names. I'm not just going to sit here and read a list of names off for you. And better menus for manager as well. Now you can request funds, something you couldn't do before. You'll be able to see a bona fide injury list, which I think we could do before, but they took out for some reason. You can see previous year's league tables. You can see all fixtures and results rather than just on the side of the league table tab there. You can see all old other league tables as well, so you can see kind of track progress across seasons with regards to how players are doing. You can edit transfers, edit other teams' team sheets, etc. I probably won't be doing that unless we decide to do something in a certain save. And I've made the following improvements to the menu tiles. Going into transfer history now sorts the transfers by fee instead of date. So you want to, it's easier to know, like you think, oh, I know I paid 20 million for someone, but I can't remember when I paid it for them. Well, they're going to be towards the top of the list rather than just having to scroll through all of the lists, all of the fees, trying to remember what day it was that you bought a player. And all of these are in addition to all menu tiles. So you'll see tomorrow when we go through and do the FC Köln Karimas. And there are other little tweaks here and there that aren't kind of keynote stuff. He did also, let me have a look, because he's recently fixed or not fixed, but adjusted the mod with the new update that came out on the 28th. And I've got this here. So the updated mod will now work with the October 28th update. He's unlocked Volta kits, or Volta outfits, into manager mode. Less training injuries, never more than 1, but there is a 1% chance you don't get any. All boots and balls are unlocked. Simming now doesn't automatically skip to the end. This is a big one as well. This is new for the most recent edition of the mod. It will go through minute by minute like it used to last year, which is good for me with regards to the entertainment value of simming a number of games. Realistic attributes for all youth players and regen, so strikers' best attributes are now finishing and poser, etc., rather than you scouting a striker and him having better tackling than finishing. That's part of the previous one as well, or the previous list that we had a look at. And there are a number of other fixes here. He's removed the request funds button as it was too buggy. So the request funds button is now no longer there, so we won't be able to do that. But other than that, I think everything else is just adding stuff, I think. And just a couple of tweaks, like teams now don't stock up so much on fullbacks and midfielders. Team's primary goalkeeper is now much more important than their secondary. Fewer transfers happen outside the window. It's now a bit faster to sim. What team looks for in a wonder kid, first team player, loan, etc. Now more realistic. Teams now rarely sell their best goalkeeper and don't sign a new one. So it's just real World Cup licensing. That's nice. Asian Champions League, Copa America, CONMEBOL, Libertadores are all now fully licensed as well. It's basically everything is just making career mode better. So if you would like to download this mod for yourselves, then I'll leave a link to Pfeiffer's Patreon in the description as well. In case someone accused, he's not paid me to promote his mod. I'm just doing it because it's fantastic, and if you play on PC, then it's going to improve your game. If you're thinking about coming over to PC, then this might help you make up your mind. But that is what we're going to be using for PC career modes on the channel moving forward and on stream as well. Like I say, the FC Köln career mode will start tomorrow. So do make sure you're subscribed, do make sure you're following me on social media, do make sure you turn on notifications, and you'll see that video in your sub boxes about midday tomorrow. I'll be streaming again tomorrow afternoon as well, because you'll see this Saturday lunchtime. I'll be streaming Sunday. I'm not streaming today on Saturday with family commitments. And then after that, well, from now, we're back to daily uploads again. So please do continue to support the channel. I know a lot of you have been very patient waiting for the new series, and I do very much appreciate that. And I'll reiterate that in the FC Köln career mode tomorrow. But that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I very much appreciate your patience. Really looking forward to getting going now with this new series and all of the new series we're going to do on PC. There's so much more we can do as well for kind of one-off videos or kind of more unique saves. So if you have any ideas for saves you'd like to see that are like outside of the regular pick a team go through a career mode, then do let me know. Anything you might like to see in the comment section down below. But for this one, today, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. I've not said that for a while.